They were like, this is an interesting thing, but like it does like the dude just gives up. I'm like, well, yeah, sometimes motherfuckers give up.
Guys, welcome to another episode of Comics and Chronic. As always, we've got my co-hosts Jake FH and Anthony Iannaccio. Today's guest is Ramon Rivas II, stand-up comedian, actor, writer, funny man, slacker supreme.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Oh, thanks.
I also like to. I like to throw gently employed in there as well.
Living the dream.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Sometimes this is just like a waking nightmare. Sometimes it's dreamy, but it just depends on the day.
Well, Ramon, welcome. You're a stand-up comedian. We first met like basically when things opened back up. You came down to Morgantown and did that show, and you've been back one other time with Joyelle.
Yeah, it was cool. Like that was it's nice to be able to like patch little DIY stuff together because so many clubs will just straight up just not respond to you trying to talk to them.
Yeah.
So it's nice that there's people like you who are like working to like have a little community built around, just coming to see whoever comes to town. And it's more equity than a club would give you anyway. So it's a nice thing. So I was glad to be able to go to Morgantown. I think the last time I did it was like a decade ago for some like sad like VFW lodge booker type of lady. And then she again was one of those people who like, why are you emailing me? It's like to get work at your sad shows. Well, never mind. I'm not going to email you no more.
Do you have like one city that you really like performing in?
I really like, I'm from Cleveland, so like very similar to Cody, I would run a lot of my own shows in that area just to kind of get up more. And that was kind of inspired by an early trip to Chicago, which is a great comedy city. There's so many open mics every night and great showcases and great clubs. So there's kind of like a natural farm system to go through. So I really like Chicago. And then in my travels, like I really love Denver. It's very, weed friendly. Chill people, cool crowds, another DIY independent scene, anchored by a strong club. New York is dope. It sucks at first, but like I've been going there since like 2010. So like every time I go back, it's the shows I'm able to access are a little better. The shows the caliber of like snack I'm able to eat goes up a little bit every time. So like, yeah, those are main ones. Like LA's cool, but I don't think it's as fun to do shows in. It's fun to hang in, but it's not fun to perform in as much as the other places.
Yeah, Jake, you're out in LA.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, like it's all right. It's like nothing. There's nothing that shows in LA feel any different. The only like side effect is like there might be someone in the crowd who can like give you a job.
I have a question for you, Ramon, because the last few shows I've been to out here in LA, I've been noticing something, and I want to see if you notice it. And Cody, you too. I've noticed comedians doing memes that I see and have on my phone and passing it off as their own original comedy. Have you been experiencing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who are lazy just in general, and
but they kill it, and I hate seeing them get credit.
Yeah, I mean, an audience doesn't have an encyclopedia of like jokes or even the integrity to care that might be a meme. They might be laughing because they know the meme more than they think the joke is funny. It's kind of on the artist to like rise above that, like easy low hanging fruit like that. That it's like, most of those memes are just the most generic, quick thing you can think of for those. They're very set up punch or very like you could feel it telegraphed. If that were if all memes were just jokes, it would just be the hackiest set.
Yeah.
From start to finish, because it's very easy. So it's people who are too lazy to not do that, which like hopefully they're not going to go very far. But a lot of times what I see happening is like people who have these followings from other avenues will start doing comedy with like meme shit. And then because they have a draw in this thing, people will pay to see them do comedy. So then it kind of bastardizes what like curators are looking for, because like it should be just good comedy, which you wouldn't look at that. But if you're just trying to sell tickets, well, maybe I'll book this person who's doing all these memes, but they're going to sell 300 tickets a couple times a week.
Exactly. And I see that a lot out here, especially like I'm on Actors Access, and I know a lot of the breakdowns will say like, oh, like post your social media following, because they already want like a built-in audience.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. And it's frustrating because I mean, I'm also on Actors Access, so it's the same thing. Yeah. But it's one of those things like just kind of studying like there's people who do it shitty like that, and there's people who turn their own jokes they've written into memes, like reverse engineering it. So like people like Jason Banks on TikTok, who like he legitimately had people started like one of his jokes went viral as a tweet that someone else made, and so he just started TikToking the act outs of his jokes with like him, a squished face of his son, and like his son's friend. And now he's got like millions of followers, can sell out everywhere. But he was a great comic before that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and then there's comics like Namesh Patel, who are like, he's just putting his stand up in these online arenas, but it's giving people a viral or a memeable moment, but that is specifically his or theirs, or whatever artist is doing it. So there's some people like working the system with their own integrity and equity, and then there's people who are just kind of like gaming the system because
no, and that's cool. I don't mind people posting their own stuff.
I do feel like the people that you're talking about, Jake, probably like won't have lasting power. Hope you know what I mean. Like either that,
I don't want to sound bitter, but that's my hope that either that they're forced to get. But I don't know. I see it a lot, dude. Like there are literally times where I'll turn to my friend and I'm at a comedy show and I was like, "Yo, I have that meme on my phone right now," because I spend too much time on Instagram. So like, I see every meme. I'm gonna know if you tell in the set. And I know that person didn't create the meme. Not that like, anyone takes credit for the memes they share, but it's like, come on, at least write your own shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just how I feel. I don't know. I'm a jaded man, I guess.
No, I feel and then like there's a lot of shitty instances of that, but like the best iteration of someone who was like famous before they did comedy and then like use that to their benefit is like Theo Vaughn.
Yeah.
Who went from like this real world kind of like kitschy, niche, specific booking to like now he like legitimately like a beastly storyteller. Like he hit a corner at some point where all that access that the exposure gave him the playing time to actually like get the skill set together. Which is cool to see. So it's like it's nice when like someone who actually like wants to do the work is able to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I read an interview with Nicole Byers where she said she did the exact same thing. She started getting big bookings way above her pay grade early on, and she was like, "Man, that for those firsthand little bit chunk of time I did awful. Thank God people gave me room to improve." So So I mean, like the people who really care are going to put in the work.
Yeah, regardless of sometimes the work's a little easier on the front end, but that's the path we get to go down.
Yeah, for sure. So, Blaze, dude, have you been seeing that a lot more? Like even more recently, Jake?
I mean, I've been seeing it for years, and I saw it when you were out here, dude. Like I saw it at that show, at the Sugar Mike, literally when I was sitting next to Allie, we both kept turning to ourselves and we're like, that one's a meme. That's a meme. That's a meme.
Like, what's an example? Because I know.
Actually, I can
know
tell
what
you
mean,
one specific meme that I remember hearing and it killed. And it is one of my favorite memes, but it is, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's white people invaded half of the world for spices and don't even season their food now. Very popular meme. And I saw this dude do it at a show and it killed. And I'm like, dude, I can show you it right now on my phone. It's just disappointing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know. It also like just depends. Like a lot of people just like don't know the etiquette or like, I mean, I'm not defending this person. I don't know how long he's been at it, but like going to open mics and like hosting open mics, I always want new young people coming through the doors and like to be excited about comedy and stuff. But like a lot of them, especially like the first few times, are gonna be telling, especially in today's day and age.
And also, like, I'm sure there are people out there who legitimately think that they came up with this joke because I too, like, I've written shit and then I've seen it performed by a comedian. I was like, well, I guess it's not an original, you know? Like,
yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, also, there's like a big, what's the thing with when everybody's like thinking about the same kind of thing? What's it called?
Tangential thinking?
Like something
parallel thinking, parallel thought.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a lot of parallel themes and thinking. Like right now, people love to talk about their trauma and being sad and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's just like a common, 10 years ago, everyone, which like people still talk about their families, but I remember like 10 years ago, it was like infinitely more like making fun of parents and you know what I mean? And
it was the whole Jeff Foxworthy when he would talk about his family and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's like, being a dad is crazy because
or like a lot of like the boomer humor where it's like, oh, being married, it fucking
like,
sucks. It's like,
what's the deal with marriage?
I feel like there's parallel themes, you know what I mean? Like people right now really love shitting on capitalism and trauma.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, if so here's the thing, if we're all like, okay, let's all write a joke about suicide, right? That's an assignment. If all four of us are writing a joke about suicide, and then all four of us are writing a joke about something in the news, like a political thing, and we're all writing on the same topic, we might all hit close to the same punchline setup tone with what we're doing because we're all going for the same thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm telling a joke about a friend of mine who committed suicide, it's still a joke about suicide, but it's through my personal lens, so it's going to be a little different patch.
That's true.
Than where you guys are going to go. So that's the danger of writing like a topical set or trying to chase culture and chase the headlines. Is like, that's great if you're like writing like 500s of monologue jokes a day and like that's what you're trying to go for. Yeah. Where you're like, I'm just trying to like structurally write jokes to like know how to do it so I can just try to get a job.
Yeah.
Like that's a very tangible real path. But like a lot of those, like if you write 100 of those jokes, I'll only write one. But it'll be a joke. It'll be a joke I really care about. And there's neither of those paths is right, but it's like some people are wired to just sit and just do I'm gonna do this. And some people aren't. So, it's cool to like see those things and be like, well, whatever. But it's like a lot of times those people aren't gonna go nowhere. Like, especially if you're seeing it, but open mics in LA, like a lot of those people aren't going to be anywhere near a comedy club or anywhere where they go where they're allowed and they're not even going to exist anywhere else there's comedy.
Yeah. Ramon, my man, you just put out an album, didn't you?
I just got ready. I've been self-distributing my albums because in the beginning of the pandemic, I was supposed to do them with a label and it got canceled. And then I just talked to a rapper, a friend of mine who self-distributes and just figured out the legwork of all that and how to submit to Sirius. So this will be my fourth album I've self-distributed, but it's all like videos and contents of shit that I have had on my computer, on my YouTube for like years.
Yeah.
like this one I'm releasing now. It's called apparently Adios, and it's in 2017. I did a birthday show at like a club in town, and I was like, hey, I think this will be the last time I headline because like just as a business thing, it's not beneficial for me to like sell 175, almost $200, 200 tickets, but like that's not going to give me no bonuses. I'm not going to make as much as if I did it at like a music venue, like, 123 Pleasant Street, where I'm able to get more of a chunk of the door. I'm like, so just as a business, it's not good for me. I'm like, I'll come headline a full weekend because I've got credits, I've done this, I've done that. I was like, but I'm done doing one night. And the club posted, come say happy birthday and apparently adios to Ramon. I'm like, oh, so y'all just gonna say bye? Okay, cool. So the album I put out, I chopped up the set from that night. So it's just me. It's an hour of me just like doing well at the club, but then just peace out to the club.
That's hilarious.
But it's a way, like, again, I just put it out, I chopped it up, and I submitted it to Sirius. And if anything gets added, I'll just make passive money off of residuals if they play it.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of the game for me now, is to keep, writing and put out a project and then just try to get it on there.
Yeah. So Ramon, one of our favorite things to do, the whole thing of this podcast, we like to get stoned with funny people and talk about nerdy things. Is there anything that you love to nerd out about?
Like nerd out?
Are you a comic book fan?
Yeah, comic book, horror movies.
Star Trek, Star Wars. Sci-fi.
I used to be really into comics when I was a kid. That was like my reward for doing my chores. But I haven't really paid attention to comics aside from like movies and like pop culture shit since like 95. So I'm really out of like what's happening in comics, now.
Yeah.
But nerdy. I mean, I'm very like tech gadgety.
Nice.
So like. But even that's not really like a nerd thing. That's just more like I just want to have nice things.
Well, you mentioned hip hop. You're a big hip hop nerd.
Yeah, man. I enjoy a good music. I've had some people give me like access points. Like my cousin who lived with me, like got me really into like Outcast of Quemini when I was in like middle school.
Nice.
So like that and like Reflection Eternal, this is a Talib Kweli and DJ High Tech album, are like my anchors of like the foundation of my hip hop music tastes were planted in those. And then just kind of, I just kind of download that shit on Apple Music and see if I like it.
Nice. Okay, so comedy influences. Who are you? You got some dates coming up, don't you? You're opening for Chris Gethard on a run or something?
Yeah, I'm doing a show with him when he's in the Cleveland area at Lakewood, and then the next night in Columbus, and then that's it. That's all the comedy on my agenda for the rest of my life, unless which I'm sure I will. But it's one of those like you're always kind of chasing it. And trying to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you watch any of like the MCU movies or anything like that? Like you were saying, you kind of follow the movies.
Yeah, I mean, I sat when I got Disney Plus over the pandemic. I sat and watched like all of them like in order.
Nice.
Wow.
And
a lot of people did that. It's dedication.
Yeah, it's a long ass time. But I tend to like. I guess if I'm nerdy for anything, it's just like TV and movie, like watching shit. Like I'm a big fan of like The Wire.
Hell yeah.
And like Breaking Bad. Like there's series that I'll just like rewatch a lot just because like structurally they're well done.
Yeah.
So I try to like justify that as like I'm studying the craft of like, taking an idea and like flushing it out. But really I just like well-structured things.
Anthony's watching Sopranos now. Have you ever watched?
Yeah.
I have. I just finished watching that.
Nice.
I'll rewatch that every once in a while. It's good, but because it is more interpretive than something like The Wire, Breaking Bad, where everything they show you matters and comes back around and layers up, where the Sopranos leave so many like untangled threads for you to like interpret, which is cool. Like it's just a different type of viewing experience than I peak enjoy. Like I still liked it. And I like actually like I've been trying to like write shit. So like I'm writing a pilot spec script of like a Sopranos reboot where Furio has to come back to America like right now and like settle up some business that's happening. So it's like checking back in on the world and like trying to like Easter egg shit, but like move shit independently of what's happening. It's an interesting exercise, but you have to know the shows well enough to like try to do that.
Let's not. I don't want to spoil it for Anthony because I just realized you haven't finished it, Anthony. So
yeah, I know. I suck. I'm the worst Italian. I'm only on season 3. Like I just started season 3, but I know Furio.
Okay.
And
yeah.
What would you call that show?
The title of the episode, the spec script is "The Sound in the Furio," which is a play on William Faulkner book. That's just what again, it's like I do a lot of nothing, but I try to like have like I've been working on that for a while, so like I'm on the 3rd act, but like trying to like figure like I haven't put like an inciting violent thing, which is like you can't, it's hard to have a Sopranos episode without any sort of fucking like firm violence happening. So like trying to figure out how to like move things into that arena is where I'm on that. And then like I just like comfort watching, like I'll put on like King of Queens or King of the Hill.
Yes, I've been doing that lately too.
Which is just a good show.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, King of the Hill is great.
Did you do a specs? Was it for that or Bob's? What was it for King of the Hill?
I wrote one for both of them. So like
Nice.
Bob's Burgers and King of the Hill. So King of the Hill, it was like a reboot called Queen of the Hill. And like in that I tried to like, I just wrote a thing that was like filling the gap from like when the show went off the air towards like now. So I got to like 2016, but like in the meantime, like Lucky like slipped and hurt his back for real. So he got like prescription pills, and then I got addicted to Oxycontin and then overdosed and died. and everyone was sad from that. And then Luann overdoses and dies just because the actors who played both of them characters are dead. So it's like, how do you, so both of them die because of the opioid crisis. And then so their daughter has to be raised by Hank and Peggy, who had just gotten Bobby out of the house. But so the new series is like that girl's the same age Bobby was when the original show started, but she's smarter than everybody in the family.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That sounds
so I was like trying to use all this shit as justification to like have something like that as an example of like, I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That was my next question. So as someone who also like, I want to be a writer so bad. And I've written like a spec script for like Always Sunny, but like the way I approached it was just to like make an episode. But what like both of your examples are crazy to me. Like you just made a spin-off of the show you liked, and that seems like, so you're saying like you use that as an example, or is that more of like an exercise for yourself, like as a writer?
Kind of a mix of both. So like originally, like I'd kind of always try to write shit that was like kind of self-referential, but it's hard to like. And stand up, if you were trial and erroring, but if we're paying attention, like the audience is telling us like what's good and what's bad, right?
Yeah.
And you can adjust your approach accordingly. But if you're just writing a script, there is no that. You're in like an echo chamber. So it's like I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if these characters through line makes sense. I don't know if this character makes sense. I don't know what I'm doing. So someone told me to write for a show, an episode of something I know very well, which is like you a fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so you wrote that. Mm-hmm. And so kind of same thing. Like I know this world and these characters and their behavior enough to move them in an arena of an idea I had. So I did that for Bob's Burgers, where like I was like, oh, it'd be funny if Aunt Gail, which is Linda's sister, dates Jimmy Pesto Sr., Bob's nemesis. I just found that like an interesting, if that happened, that would have a big fallout like of now Jimmy Jr. and Tina are cousins. So like, can they still date? All those sorts of things. And then just kind of wrote the script to try to make that happen. And that made me feel more confident as far as like, okay, I know how to like make a run of something and do that. But then I couldn't, like, I got the Lauren Bouchard, who created Bob's Burgers, retweeted about the table read I was doing. And then Doug Benson, like, tweeted it to a writer on the show, but neither of them could read it because of like legal protections of like unsolicited material. So I emailed with the writer a little bit, and he was like, write an example of something that's not on the air anymore so that anyone can read it.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so crazy because I remember, I'm sorry to interrupt, but back in the day, they would always say the opposite. The advice I always got was like, don't write for something that's not on the air because it's not on the air anymore. So who cares? But that makes so much sense. I'm sorry, but No,
it's okay. So it's like the thing I wrote for the show I would like a job on, I can't use to try to get the job on that show. So, that's where it's like having examples of like, now you have a half hour, like, cable comedy script done. Now could you have like a network type? Now could you have like an HBO type? Now could you have like an hour long drama where it's more like a Sopranos or what else would fall in that? Or like a dramedy where it's like Freaks and Geeks or like something like that. Giving yourself these different spaces to work, because like when I first went to LA, I'd do well on stage, and I've had meetings where people are like, what you got, what you doing? And I'm like, I just want to do comedy. And they're like, okay, bye. Because there's no money. You don't make no money in comedy. But if you're like, I got a couple scripts, I'd like to get staffed as a writer, I want to produce something, blah, blah. Then they're like, oh, this dude's going to make some money. Let's do some business. Which is all stuff you can do at the crib and wherever you are, in the country, which is cool. Like, the internet's beautiful. You can just literally Google a script of whatever show you like and read a bunch of episodes, see how it looks, see how your favorite episode looks on the page, and then just try to mimic that with your own idea.
But so like your spin-off idea, basically, is that the same idea? Like, it's a show that's not on the air, but you're like taking it a step further and placing it like if it were on the air today.
Yeah, if it were to come back, and could it stand alone? Like, it's tethered to this other thing, but it can stand alone as its own example of a world. But the world is going to have a lot of callbacks and homages to the existing IP. And that's just kind of how my brain worked. But if I was writing something that's like on the air still, I would try to fit the, current story arc or existing characters, whatever.
Yeah. So like with Queen of the Hill, it's crazy because King of the Hill is actually coming back. I heard that.
I know, so I can't. I can't use that to try to get.
Damn.
And then they're greenlighting a reboot of a prequel for The Sopranos, so it'll be like before.
A series?
Sopranos happened. Yeah, I think that's what I saw. David Chase was in talk.
I hope not. That movie sucked.
That movie was bad, just because like they tried to do a little too much
fan service for one. It was all
too much fan service, and there was a lot of like, in going back and watching The Sopranos after that, like there was a lot of like flashbacks they could have just mined around, and filled in a lot of the gaps like that as service, instead of like, I don't know. It felt like they tried to make. I don't remember feeling like Dickie Moltisanti was anywhere near that big of a deal to Tony at any point in The Sopranos. Yeah. So I'm like, wait, how's this dude? Why not just have it be about his dad and his uncle?
Yeah.
Or his mom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to go back, like, go back to, like, something particular. Don't tell me that they were running little, like, Silvio and him and them and Ralphie and Jackie Aprile were in a little gang since they were kids, but then not having the age gap between. Not having, and like, so it's like none of this is adding
older
up.
Than Tony in the movie for some reason, and he was bald, and it's never implied once that he's bald. He has Steven Van Zandt has a full head of hair.
Yeah, but you could tell it's like it's not real in the show.
It is.
I always think it's a wig.
No, that's his hair. It would just get
really.
Yeah,
I've been assuming it's a wig the whole time.
No. That Steven Van Zandt,
that's like a thing that they're like, we'll put this in as like a through line of a joke.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess, like, you know, it was one of those, like, yeah, it did look like a hairpiece for the thing. So, oh, look, it was a hairpiece. And we just.
Yeah, I think the movie just tried to juggle too much and it failed. Like, the last scene was on that dude, that random black guy. Like, not that I didn't mind his story, but like, there wasn't that much of it. It tried to, like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, and they had like, there was an episode where their councilman Ronnie Zellman and this black dude he went to college with,
and they have to get the homeless crackheads out of the houses.
Yeah. So they talked about being involved in the riot back in the day. So it's like, oh, you could have like showed us those people,
showed us Ronnie Zellman and the black guy, but like they didn't.
It's just a weird like the things they chose to go down. Like you just tap Carmela in like real quick.
That was so random.
Yeah,
it was just a terrible movie. David Chase came out beforehand and he's like, hey, I want to thank you guys for like coming to see it in theaters and like not watching it at home and whatnot. I was like,
Jake saw it in theaters and David Chase.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters and David Chase walked out right before it comes on, and we were all like, "Oh shit!" Like, it was awesome. Honestly, I felt so good going into the movie because of that. That by the time I came out, literally one dude went to clap when the credits started, and like nobody followed him, so he just stopped. Yeah, and then the guy next to me, he was like this, I don't know, like in his mid-50s, bald, white, fat dude, and he throughout the credits he kept like trying to like guess what was going on. He'd be like, "Oh, this is a new Exorcist movie," and it was a Ghostbusters trailer. He was talking to his girlfriend the whole time. Yeah, dude. And I was like, and then at the end of the new Ghostbusters trailer, I don't know if you see it, but it's like someone picks up and goes hello, and it's Dan Aykroyd, but the dude who's like Bill Murray. That's Bill Murray's voice. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Anyways, after the movie ends, he turns to me. He goes, "That's how you know it's a good movie." That movie was 2 hours, but it felt like 2 minutes. And I was like, what? What the fuck are you talking about?
I will give it that it felt more like a movie than an episode of The Sopranos, but they probably would have been better off just doing like a mini series. They should have done a
miniseries and not this bullshit
of that instead of like, you know, they needed another hour and a half to do it right, or like,
yeah.
Does it even feel like, because you said they're actually, I guess, making a prequel series now, does it feel like a setup for a series, or it's not even like that cohesive?
No, I don't think it didn't feel like too cohesive in that. I mean, unless they decide to do it centered around like the Apriles, which like they weren't even in the movie. Yeah. Which is crazy because like they were in charge before The Sopranos, so it's like a weird
also
omission.
It was barely a Tony Soprano prequel movie. He's really not in it that much. It's a Dicky Moltisanti movie for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, anyways.
And that's Christopher's father?
Yeah, it's Christopher's father.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is that, yeah. Which they talk about a bit in the series, but they definitely make him out to be more of an alcoholic junkie in the series
than he was in the movie.
Yeah. So it just, a lot of shit like that just didn't ring. Which again is one of those like, well, this exists before, so you're not you know, locked into how shit happened in the future because like you're playing with the past. So it's like what gets recorded is completely different than what actually happens.
Yeah.
A lot of times, but you know, it's fucking challenging as shit to do. So especially when you have something as like monumentally well renowned and beloved as The Sopranos, it's like even if you knock it out the park, like that shit was going to drain you to get it to that point.
Yeah, like you just destroy every IP just because you got to try to make money from it somehow.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah. So you said you're not doing any comedy for the foreseeable future. You got any dope holiday plans, my man?
Nah, just hanging with my family. I'm pretty low key. Like I'll probably like pop out to Chicago or New York for like a week or a couple days.
Nice.
Because I can like just get like club spots while I'm there and like pop in on some indie shows and like
hell yeah,
at least like do comedy. And hang out with my friends, which is cool. And then just, send out emails and try to get some shit popping for next year.
Nice.
Is always the annoying part of things.
Yeah. I just did a run of shows with Louisville's Dan Alton. You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about? He said he specifically said you need to try Ramon's dad's holiday drinks.
Oh, Coquito. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like a Latino holiday drink. I describe it as eggnog with Latino
It's
flair.
so good. It's so good.
Yeah, but my family makes it without egg. But it's good. And like when I would have my comedy festival, like there'd usually be a night where my dad would make a bunch of that, and then like a bunch of this pork shoulder he makes, and like rice and beans,
Nice.
and like that would be the meal that everyone was eating.
Nice.
Sounds dang.
That sounds so good.
Now I'm just hungry.
Cody, you love eggnog. I hate eggnog.
What?
Oh
I
my
love
God,
eggnog.
I love eggnog.
Eggnog is
What?
awesome.
Like you just drink it straight up?
Oh, I love straight up eggnog.
Yeah,
I don't even
it's my
need
favorite.
alcohol in it, honestly. I'll drink that shit.
I prefer no
And me too,
alcohol.
honestly. I prefer no alcohol.
Yeah, I'd rather just drink eggnog now and then have alcohol later. You know what I mean?
Maybe I got to give it another shot this year. I never
Dude, it's
liked
my
it.
favorite. It's one of my favorite things. It's the only thing that gives. I don't like cold weather, and it's nice.
It's the lone thing you can look forward to.
Yeah, for the cold season. Oh, your festival. When was the last time you put that on?
2018, I believe, was the last one.
Nice.
It had like hermit crabbed its way from being like a like small independent venues to like one venue with like multiple stages. It was more like a rock venue,
Yeah.
and then all the way up to the comedy club. And then it just became a battle of nailing the community vibes and aspects of it compared to like the capitalist, like this needs to make money compared to the budget we're giving you.
Yeah.
And it's like from a club's perspective, for a general weekend, they can pay someone like $1,500 to $2,000 to headline, and like if they sell enough, give them bonuses. But if not, like that's your bottom line. Versus like they were giving me like $20,000 to like book and curate the week.
Yeah.
So it's like I would, and then I was like making sure everyone had somewhere to stay, making sure everyone had church, made like really giving like proper hospitality, giving people a travel stipend or set per diem, and really just trying to like combat the things I don't like when I go do festivals.
Yeah,
and that that doesn't always add up. And then I was also living in LA, trying to like work remotely with a group of comics who were all like kind of trying to like grow and do their own thing. So it was just all very like. It got very headachy that last year. And then it was the year I went and did Edinburgh instead of being home and like going to all the festivals and like hanging up flyers and like doing that type of thing. So, it got hard to do it with anything. Like it's hard to give a fuck about something you're not like directly like your hands in the dough.
Yeah.
Doing it. And then it's hard to tell people what to do with their hands when their hands are in the dough.
Yeah. So yeah, is that a project you're just happy to gonna leave in the past, or you think maybe one day there'll
if I do anything, like I'll try to do like a Fringe festival in my hometown, because like they already do an international festival, which is like a cultural dance groups and like food stands. And so like I had a really good experience when I went and did Edinburgh, but like to do it right, to have like a PR team behind you and like a street team and like all this shit, you have to almost have like $10,000 like towards the bottom of the expense, how much it'll cost you. Like I did it the first year, I did it for like $3,000, like getting there, living there the whole month and like not dying. So I had like a $3,000 vacation for a month, which is like pretty good deal. But like to not make money that whole month is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, because none of my shows sold enough to give me my pay structure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Versus, anyways, if I spend $10,000 to do a festival in my hometown, I know how far I can make that go.
Yeah.
And try to build something out there where I have a little more emotional equity in what's happening. like Cody runs a bunch of, like, when you run a successful show, you feel good that you created this space for like these people to hang out, these people to meet, these people to know. Like that feel like that's cool, and it feels extra cool for me when I do that in my hometown, which like had like this economic fallout. Then like people kind of write it off, but it's like there's still people here. So it's cool to like be able to give them a space to connect and get to know each other and do shit.
Hell yeah. I know you ran a bunch of shows in Lorraine over the summer. Do you think you're going to be able to do it next summer, or is that was the city, did things fall out and not end up?
They didn't really fall out terribly. Like they just kind of told me like in order to get permits for public spaces, I have to like pay usage fee, an electric fee, which is $75, and then have liability insurance. And like they never told me how much that would ultimately be. So like I just gave up. Because the reason I was doing them is because it was easier to just get a permit, do a show outside. It's safe, with the pandemic looming and still occurring, like, giving people this pay what you want entertainment to make it accessible to like everyone. It was cool to see like people across the socioeconomic spectrum, people across the gender spectrum, people across the racial spectrum, all at the same outdoor shows, just like chilling, hanging out at this party. It was cool to do, but it was annoying to have to like figure out the infrastructure of like how to do it by the regimented channels that are like acceptable. It's like I'm paying for this shit out of my pocket. Like I can't add a few $100 every show, for a free show. So like that's an evident. But then it's like, okay, well, if I can find another space, or I can find a sponsor to cover those costs. So it's like there's things I could do with more forethought. Yeah. And then they also were like, oh, well, you can like talk to the city planner and like look into getting a building downtown and like blah, blah, blah. So it's like, okay, that's like supportive because it's like, it'd be cool to have this thing. But then it's also like, oh, I have to do a whole bunch of work. Man, like maybe I'll wind up wanting to do it. But like, right now I'm like, all right, that might be a bigger piece than I'm really able to chew right now. But it's on the back burner of like, okay, like that's a thing to work towards. Try to anchor it around this thing. Like what I'm trying to do is line up all my goals, right? So that they snowball into each other and make each other more effective. So that I'm maintaining more of the equity, like of that labor. Yeah, does that make sense? So, like, totally. I want to do the festival in my hometown, which is going to be like a fringe and international festival. So, before I do that, I should go to London and the UK and just try to do shows. And so, I'm talking to a person out there. But again, it's one of those like, if I can figure out how to do it, if a shutdown doesn't happen, if I'm able to get out there, like that's just kind of up in the air. Yeah. But if I can go out there, do well, make connections, come back, do my festival, have it be, I have experience and success in the past, like putting on an event that the vibe will match. Like I had a dude who he came to the festival the first year was at Hilarities in 2017. And he was like, I've been to this year, him and his wife went to Moon Tower. They went to Just for Laughs and they went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And they said the Accidental Festival at the club matched the experience of those and exceeded the intimacy. Because like we were having that conversation and like Doug Benson's sitting right here at a booth talking to like a couple other comics and like everyone's just kind of hanging, like having like a really chill, fun like kickback after the shows. And that was cool to hear because it's like I pulled that off with like maybe $25,000, and every single festival he mentioned has a multi-million-dollar engine behind it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm able to like execute something that equals those things. So it's trying to figure out how to get that type of money behind
That's sick.
what I'm able to do. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
So that shit's hard.
That
I can
sounds
imagine.
hard.
This sounds-
Like, is that kind of festival, is like that not something like the local businesses like want to get behind, or is that how?
It can be like what I found is when once it got into the comedy club, a lot of places were like, but you're a business. Like you do comedy every weekend. Like what makes this weekend? Why am I giving you money for this weekend? Is what was what happened once it moved into that type of space.
Yeah.
But then it's also one of those things that like you really have to like I've been trying to study how theater because like the arts endowment in Ohio is one of the highest in the countries, and it usually goes to like theater groups, symphony, or our orchestra's really dope. Our Playhouse Square area's got a lot of shit, but there's like a small. It's called Near West Theater. It used to be in like a little storefront in this neighborhood called Gordon Square. And a few years ago, they just opened up like a $1.3 million building that have like, the type of spotlight where you can just clip a thing on your belt and it'll just follow you.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
So it's like that type of money became available to a group of people who like are acting as like a day job side thing. Like this isn't, it's, I don't want to degrade it, but it's not at the same, they're not at the same tenacity that most people are pursuing comedy. Right.
Yeah.
But they've positioned themselves as an artistic endeavor. So it's trying to be mindful of that in how I set up and frame what I do versus just being like, I'm doing a show at this bar, y'all should come.
Yeah.
Like trying to always be mindful of that bigger wave that it could be a part of. It is something that like to try to keep in mind, but it also gets overwhelming. So you don't have to.
Damn.
Yeah.
But I've told Cody, like there's that little around the corner from 123, there's like an old movie theater that you said is like burnt up, like fire.
Yeah.
But it's like, bro, like keep running successful shows and put a business plan together and then just go to motherfuckers that have money.
Yeah.
That live like if you wind up getting like breweries that fuck with you or like this type of this, that, and the other, talk to them owners and try to get some because like you can really even if they buy it and you just operate in it. You know what I'm saying? Or you get some form of equity in what you're able to contribute does have value. So it's like trying to finesse your expertise into just a space where you can like create.
Yeah.
Because I also know that you work as like in a restaurant just in general. Like so if you get a thing where like, hey, I'll handle the booking and I'll be like your back of house manager for like your kitchen.
Hell yeah.
In this space. Who's not going to give you 20% of the thing without you having to give them any money if that's what you're putting on the table?
Yeah, that's true. 100%.
Or you could, or just be like, I'm just doing this show at 123 Pleasant. But it's like, that's what the big, like all the energy could lead to that, or it could just lead to you just having a free bar tab.
Yeah, no, definitely working on things. The reason I was so interested in the festivals is I'm organizing a comedy and beer festival with like breweries from all over the state and stuff like that. So I'm working. That's honestly why I was interested in Accidental, because everyone I've talked to that's mentioned Accidental has nothing but like the best of things to say about it, you know?
Yeah, and it's one of those like when I started doing it, I started running that before I ever got into any comedy festivals.
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, I know when I get rejected from festivals, they just tell me like no, but like no specific reason. Like I don't know what I did wrong or what I could work on and improve. So I would ask I don't judge the submissions that come in. I'll ask like comedy fans who like come to shows a lot, who like, I'm sure you have them, like the regulars who like they're there, they're cool, they're weird, but they're chill. They're kind of like adjacent to shit. So it's like, hey, would you guys be willing to like judge some of these clips? And they're like, oh, excited. But it winds up being a lot because, like, you know, I think the first year I did it, I had like maybe 40 submissions. And by the last year, it was up to like 400.
Yeah.
And it was growing every year where like it was literally just me putting it out. And then like because I traveled so much, it just kind of popped out to like I'd get submissions from places I'd never been and people I didn't know. So it was very interesting to see like, oh, people will come like if you're able to like put an experience together and try to like add some value for everybody at every point in the process. So when the judges would grade the thing, I'd ask them for like a letter grade plus or minus, and then something the comic did well, and then something they could work on. Yeah. And so I wouldn't give the comic the grade, but I'd give them what the judges said they did well and what they said they could work on. And like a lot of times, sometimes it's like, hey, this video had like, I couldn't hear, there was talking like right by the camera, or like, you know, like they seem rushed or whatever feedback they get, it's at least constructive enough where like your $15, $20 submission fee, if not, I've seen some festivals like the World Series of Comedy be like, this week's $150 submission.
Damn.
Yeah.
And a lot of comics will use the same clip for all of those. So if your clip has bad audio and you don't know that, and you use it for every single festival you submit to, you can just be throwing hundreds of dollars away.
Yeah.
Without understanding what's wrong with what you're sending. It's nothing to do with what you're doing. It's the way you presented it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like that was a thing that like that's completely against the grain of how regular comedy festivals did things.
Yeah.
So like giving some value to even people who aren't in the festival. And then people who get in, I know when you get in festivals, a lot of times like, hey, you're in, get here however you're getting here and stay wherever you're going to stay. And so it's like, what can I do to combat that? So I like think the second year I got the hostel had just opened in Cleveland. So I rented out like the whole hostel and just the comics all had somewhere to at least like stay. Like some of them had the like room together and like a dorm style shit, but at least like it was in one space. I was able to like cook breakfast for everybody in the kitchen. Like it was kind of by a bunch of bar hopping areas.
Hell yeah.
And then, but that gets expensive. You know what I'm saying? So even to do that, we were still not even paying anybody, but that costs $3-4 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Easily. Yeah. So it's like the things that you try to do to just give artists a sense of validity and like, I don't want this weekend to be an L for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if I'm giving you somewhere to stay and giving you a $100 stipend, that's nothing, right? But I'm now as a festival producer, now I'm at like $7,000 of cost and I've barely done anything for you, right? Yeah. And then if I want to give everyone a shirt, that's another grand. If I want to give everyone a hat, that's another $1,500. So it can add up like quick, and you didn't even book a headliner yet.
Yeah.
You know, so, but the positive side of that is because you have these distributors or these breweries, what money y'all working with? Because sometimes they'll throw an event, they'll just have 10 grand just sitting there for like a karaoke night that they want to do, or like just some shit. So it's like if each of these breweries is giving you $5 grand, $2 grand, $1 grand, like you can get a number from them to kind of base your budget off of before you sell any tickets. And then just hustle your ass off to sell tickets.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a basic breakdown of like, I was just trying to give dignity to artists and like have it, you know, I've had a lot of people who told me like they were feeling bummed out about comedy before they came to the festival. And then it kind of like reinvigorated them and like reminded them of like why they love it, the things that, so it's like being mindful of that. And that may have nothing to do with the shows being successful. But if the shows are successful, they'll probably also have this.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like a very symbiotic relationship.
For sure. For sure.
That's cool.
Hell yeah. Dude, yeah, I'm so grateful. Dude, every single time I have a chat with you, it's always so full of insight, and I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, seriously, you just schooled the fuck out of us.
No problem, man. But it's one of those things. Like I think I wish more of us were aware of just the like. I think more of us are noticing that like you can operate independent of the system,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or try to adhere to the system. Like most of us trying to get booked, we're going to go to open mics. We're going to go, in LA specifically, like, okay, I'm going to whatever mics I can get up at. I might go to the Comedy Store on a Monday and sign up for the open mic and try to get on that. And then, like, that's the extent with which you're trying to do comedy in LA. And it's like, okay, well, if you know someone who works at the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, hey, next time you're there, can I go with you? They'll give you free food and drink just for being someone's guest.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you just hang out and you talk to the manager, hey, can I email you a clip sometime? Okay, cool. And then you do that. Taking 3 hours to drive down there through traffic is going to be more valuable, and not performing is going to be more valuable than going and sitting 3 hours at an open mic and not performing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like the time's the same, but what are you trying to get towards?
Yeah.
You know, is something to keep in mind. So it's like, and then also like you can just do this shit at the crib. You can write scripts, you can write tweets. Like I know people who they started writing, just tweeting jokes and doing, tweeting dumb shit. And then they got reps from that. And then they started like writing scripts and shit. And then they've worked on like TV shows. They've written on shows, all from just tweeting in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like, there's a lot of these things you can just try and do. And like, it's not everyone who tweets bullshit all the time isn't going to get that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, if what you're trying to do is that joke, that specific, like we were talking earlier, like the monologue, like jokey joke, like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Twitter's perfect for that. You can write a tweet and have that bitch pop off, and it can be the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
For sure.
And, but someone who's good at Twitter might not be good at TikTok. Someone who's good at TikTok might be trash at Instagram. Like, it's all so weird. So it's like, try them all out and find what you are comfortable with or what fits, like, what you're trying to get towards. Because even, I don't know what the mics are like, or what the access is around where you are. But it's like trying to keep the engine and motor running when you can't get up and do it the way we were doing it.
Yeah.
Like I've always felt like as a writer, if I write something like right now and it's like the best script in the world, but at the end of the day, who's going to care? Like I'm just some guy. Like I can't like you said, like if I wrote let's say I wrote the fucking best episode of The Simpsons, I can't show it to anybody that works at The Simpsons because they're not legally allowed.
There's a website called Coverfly, I believe it is. It's like a script, like you could put it up on there. There's something every once in a while there'll be like a free contest you could submit your shit through, or like I just submitted a short film I wrote real quick because I didn't see the deadline in time. But I paid like $100 just to get 2 pages of feedback with it, just so I know someone.
You find that the Coverfly feedback was worth it?
It was, in the sense of like I wish I would have spent it on a script I had done more time with,
okay,
instead of something I punched out to get it done to submit. Does that make sense?
I totally get that. Yeah.
So that again, it's one of those like, okay, I'm willing to do it just to see if it has value, and then like seeing what I got back, I'm like, okay, this is constructive in certain ways. Because it lets me know that I could have done a better job of like they got a gist of it, but they were confused by the end of it instead of understanding what I was trying to give them. They were like, this is an interesting thing, but like it does, like the dude just gives up. I'm like, well, yeah, sometimes motherfuckers give up. But yeah, so like that, it's one of those things. So there's that. There's Actors Access, like you said earlier. That's $64 a year. Every day you can get on there. You can submit to fucking listings, and do an audition or two a week. Whether you book it or not is out of your hand. But like I've gotten like I booked a lot of like callbacks, and then I actually got offered one thing, but because of COVID, they're like, oh, we're only doing local hires. But it's still one of those things like this is just practice. Like I did more auditions living in Ohio over the pandemic than I did living in LA with representation. So it's because they're only going to submit you for shit that they think
you're right
you can fit in versus I can submit to literally anything and see what they think, you know? But those are two outlets that are available for you to like, you know, put your shit through. Again, if you guys can read each other's script and be like, hey, can you go just to get someone to give you a little outside perspective of like, oh, this would be interesting here. Like, what does this character do if there's not the show? Like, what's happening? Like, just to make your brain kind of churn in a little different path. But even, you know, anytime you can write something and have a sample, like I remember I think I was listening to like a Mark Maron podcast, and it was like Donald Glover, and he was just like, yeah, like someone, I think it was Tina Fey was like looking for a writer, and said his name, and he went in and she was like, you had any samples? And he had sketches from his sketch group, Team Derek. He had a movie script he'd written. He had spec scripts. He had things. So he had to be like, okay, here. And then, oh yeah, okay, you seem capable, come through. Versus, oh yeah, I'll write something. By the time you write something, they already hired somebody. They forgot about you. So having that shit done, it might feel like, what was this for? It's good to have that quiver in your arrow. Even to every year you can submit to writing fellowships. You can submit to different contests on that Coverfly. There's a whole bunch of different paths and outlets. You can just save up and pay to join the Writers Guild. It's a couple grand, but then you're on then your access changes again. You know, but that's one of those things that you're like, we don't think in those terms.
Yeah.
But but there's a lot of resources that you can find through the Writers Guild website for aspiring writers. So it's just Googling and clicking and spending your downtime while you're smoking weed, like Googling that type of shit.
Yeah.
Nice, dude. Dude, yeah. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
That was like honestly like
very informative interview.
Yeah.
We're taking you down, Hollywood. You heard?
Yeah.
That was for
I guess that's what I'm nerdy. Like, I don't know how to explain that type of nerdiness to people, but like,
I mean, it was dope. It was like I said, every time it's super educational. I'm grateful.
Same. Thank you so much. Seriously.
No doubt.
You got any shows coming up?
Yeah, I'm doing Gathered Show, but like, I'll be dropping the new album called Apparently Adios. It'll come out on Thanksgiving. I picked that just because I'm like, people will just be chilling to crib. The initial boost of like sharing and shit that I would be able, I'm like, all right, let's just boot. Because my first few albums I put out to no affair or reviews or anything. I just got like a couple tracks on Sirius and then started seeing money. So I'm like, hey man, I'll do that all the time. So that comes out the 25th. If you want to listen to it, cool. Where
can you find it?
It'll be on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, anything you listen to music on.
Nice.
And then my other albums are Ramon Rivas Revisited, and then Stick to Comedy is the other one. And then I put out a greatest hits album of interview segments from my Cannabis and Culture podcast. And so it's called Now That's What I Call Pre-Baked Volume 1.
Nice.
And so those are all on all those platforms.
Cannabis and Culture sounds like the more refined version of our podcast.
Yeah, man. Again, it's all in how you frame it, baby.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
No problem,
Yeah,
man. Thanks
yeah.
for having me.
Really appreciate it.
I
dude.
think I want to call this episode Cannabis and Culture. I'm just going to grab.
Hi, you're listening to Comics and Chronic, and I'm Jake FH.
I'm Cody Cannon.
And I'm Anthony Iannaccio.
And you can tune in every Thursday to hear new episodes of Comics and Chronic.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Comics and Chronic. That's Comics, the letter N, Chronic.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!
Peace.